The Phanteks NV7 changes everything that you thought you knew about larger cases. Let's do our usual thing. Let's take a closer look at everything that makes the NV7 tick. We'll test the thermals, we'll do a build, we'll do everything. I'm gonna answer all your questions. Let's do it. Let's start off with panel remove on the NV7. This case is a little bit different to cases you might have seen before. The way to get in is actually through the back. Pull from here and open this as a door. You'll notice that the whole back is enclosed. We'll come back to that and I'll explain how all of this works, but there's a set of captive thumb screws for the side panel, which is a tempered glass side panel. It doesn't have any tint on it. And then you slide the panel back and away from the case. Top panel, the same deal. There's two more captive thumb screws. You want to loosen those and you want to slide that panel back as well. Usually with these hinged panels, you kind of pull them all the way open and lift them up. But for this one, you actually need to have it almost closed and then lift it up to remove it. It has a screw on the top that you need to loosen up to get access to the back panel. It's just a single screw. Make sure you don't lose it. The rear side panel has this mesh vent as well. This is for intake for your power supply. And the top panel is much the same with this mesh here for exhaust for your radiator or fans out the top of the case. There's no filter built in here because this is designed to be exhaust and you don't want to impede any airflow with filters. This rear panel is removable as well with a single screw. This allows you to change up the fan configuration in the way that you can either have this on or off. The reason why this panel is here is this whole section on the back is open. The fan screw holes are underneath and this just works as a grill so you don't accidentally have things flying into the back of your fans. It's functional and also allows the case to be a little bit narrower. Let's go back to the rear of the case just so I can show you one of the standout features of this case that kind of makes this unique. This case has an integrated cable management system for your actual cables coming out of the computer, not inside. So you'll notice these cable runs here. So your USB cables and whatnot, display cables, it'll come out in this little part here. Whether or not this is going to impact thermals is something I'm very curious about. So we will be testing that. For power supply support, you're looking at a maximum of 255 millimeters with space left over for all of your cables and whatnot. There's not many power supplies that are that large, so I don't think this is going to be much of an issue here. For hard disk and SSD support, we've got a lot of options with the case here. You've got these panels which can be flipped down and removed. From memory, the case allows up to 6 2.5-inch SSDs and 2 3.5-inch spinning rush drives in whichever configuration that will fit. Not only that, there is a panel here which can be flipped out. This one can be removed, but you'll need to remove a screw here for it to be pulled away from the case. But you don't really need to pull it away from the case. And this has little foam pads as well that allow you to put those drives in and hold them into place while screwing them in. For cable management, we've got these Velcro tie downs that are built into the case. This is pretty classic Phanteks here. And we've got a central channel here. So this will be for your 24-pin power connector and anything that runs down here for drives and whatnot. And you've got these rubber grommets for passing the cables through to the inside of the case. You've got these cutouts on the top, which should be adequate for your EPS power connectors. On the inside, there's plenty of cable pass-throughs below the motherboard. There's also a rubber grommet on the bottom of the case here to pass cables through. Look at this cute little grommet, a little baby grommet. You don't see grommets this small, look at it, so tiny. This rear panel, as I've shown already, is removable to allow us to install fans on the rear here. But to remove this bottom fan bracket, there's a thumb screw on the back of the case. It allows you to remove the whole bottom fan bracket for the NV7. The whole bottom of the case sits on an angle which changes the airflow path a little bit. The side fan bracket is much the same as well. There's another thumb screw which is removable. Pull that thumb screw out and then you slide the bracket forward. The whole fan bracket on the side section is also removable. On the top, we can do 3 120mm fans or up to a 360mm radiator. On the side section, up to 4 120mm fans or up to a 360mm radiator. You might be asking yourself, why can't you do a bigger radiator? You have to remember that there's end tanks on radiators as well, so they take up some space. In the rear fan slot, you can do up to 2 120mm fans or a 240mm rad up the back too. That's really, really cool to see if I'm being honest. The bottom section has the most support for fans, 3 120mm fans, 3 140mm fans, a 360mm rad or a 280mm rad. You can't do a 420 at the bottom. Yeah. For motherboard support, you're looking at either SSI CEB or EATX up to 277mm wide. The thing that makes wider motherboards fit in here is you can actually remove this panel here, which we'll get around to in a moment. For GPU support, you're looking at up to 450mm. This is a big case. You can fit almost any GPU in here at the time of filming this video. GPUs will probably get bigger over time as well. So you can do it in this orientation, as well as doing it in the vertical orientation as well. Plenty of space and room for activities in the NV7. Which leads me into the next thing, the integrated GPU support bracket. Included with the case accessories is a GPU support bracket, which mounts to this section here. And this will allow really good GPU support without having to use any other brackets. The bonus here is it's color matched with the case as well. So if you're going for that pure white aesthetic, or if you have the black version of the case, you're going for that blacked out aesthetic, you're gonna have a bracket that not only definitely fits in the case, will suit the look that you're going for with your build as well. An important metric to be aware of with these new GPUs, especially 40 series GPUs that is the width of the case itself. So we've got 185 mils of width, which is more than enough for these giant 40 series cards. That GPU width measurement gives us the height measurement if you're wanting to air cool in this case, which is also 185mm of CPU cooler clearance. The case does have an integrated RGB controller, which allows you to change effects, switch it to motherboard pass-through mode. There's also a power button at the top here. The main thing is Phanteks doesn't have RGB software. That's not really their thing. And I kind of commend them for that too. It makes it a lot easier, and their controllers have a lot of effects built into them. Integrated RGB controller will allow you to plug in up to 4 RGB devices. It's got motherboard pass-through via the cable that comes in the accessory box that I'm probably showing on your screen right now, as well as the inputs for the RGB control buttons on the top of the case. And you'll also notice there's something already plugged into the controller. That's because there are 2 RGB strips built into the case. The top one doesn't require any screws or whatnot to remove. Essentially, you'll want to just push it and lift it away. The way this attaches to the controller itself is via a set of pogo pins. The one down the side of the motherboard tray, it has a removable thumb screw on the rear of the case. The strip on the side pulls down and away from the case. And this one works in much the same way, but instead of using pogo pins, you've got contact pads. Removing both of those gives you a bit more cable management space to pass cables through and whatnot. And as I mentioned, if you're going for a wider motherboard, it allows the motherboard to hang over this a little bit. This is what the RGB looks like when all the lights are off and, you know, in the Backstreet Boys. This is the Backstreet Boys, baby, when the lights go. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna stop talking. Just look at the RGB. For the internal case wiring, we've got a block for your front panel lights and switches and everything to let you know system's up and running, and to turn it on, you've got your USB Type-C front panel connector, you've got your front panel audio connector, a USB 3.2 Type A connector, as well as two SATA or SATA power cable connectors for the RGB controller, and it does require both of these to be plugged in for RGB. Front panel I/O is pretty basic on this case. You've got a combined headphone and microphone jack, USB Type C port, and two USB Type A ports. Something I think you guys might find interesting as well is, let's say for instance, you didn't have four 120mm fans for the backside. You can block off the section to make it look cleaner as well, so it's not open. It comes with these magnetic panels that they're just plastic panels, and they magnetically attach to it and allows you to block off a whole section here if you don't have enough fans for the whole case. There's some other tiny bits of attention to detail. At the top of the case, next to where you would mount fans or radiators, there's a fill port, and on the bottom of the case here, we have a drain port. So it's designed well for doing custom water-cooled builds, which we won't be doing in this video, but you know, it is there if you want to use it, right? There's a single dust filter on the case, which pulls out via the bottom of the case. That's it. Not too exciting, and get back in there, you dog. I think that's everything you need to know about the Phanteks NV7. Let's do our usual thing. Let's do a build, test the thermals and all that jazz. Let's jump right in. here are the thermals. What you're seeing on your screen right now is the thermals aren't too bad at all. One thing that I was kind of curious about was the back panel being closed to see if that would impede the thermal performance. And as you can see in this graph right here, it didn't really change much whatsoever. So good job, Phanteks, for doing something completely different and very cool and keeping the thermals in check. I'm not going to talk too much about the hardware in this PC because we put little cards on the screen through the video. So if you want to see what that is, you can scroll back, but there's also a PC part picker list down below where you can check all of that out. And yeah, we're using the new Phanteks D30 fans as well because, you know, they sent them and we're like, you know what, we'll just use these new fans. But quite often get questions about the RGB software that we use for these type of builds as well. We didn't use any software at all. This is the built-in RGB from the RGB controller. And I just used the motherboard software to make the RAM match the build. But what do I think about the Phanteks NV7? I'm gonna keep this as short and as sweet as possible. This case is awesome. Usually big cases like this aren't my cup of tea because they can be a bit of a handful even though you've got lots of room. But the NV7 for me personally is one of the easiest cases, from Phanteks at least, that I've ever built in. This case nails absolutely everything that I thought it would. We saw the NV7 pop up around the time that CES 2023 was on, and for me personally, I'm always skeptical when I see cases on the show floor when I'm not there because it's hard to judge in other people's videos, but having this thing sitting right here, I can tell you right now, the build quality is excellent. The cable management is excellent. And I think Phanteks, as per usual, have done an excellent job with this case. But there is an elephant in the room here with this case, and it's the fact that everyone's gonna be like, hey, it's just another O11 clone. It's not. It does what the O11 cases do, but it does it better. It executes it just more elegantly. It's much easier to build in. It's less of a pain in the ass than the O11 cases. Everyone bangs on about how amazing they are, but this is better. A lot of people will always ask me, oh, why do I rag on the O11 so much? It's just an overrated case. It's not actually that good. This is better. But as with every case, this thing isn't perfect. But it is better than a lot of stuff that we've seen out there. Now there's a couple little things that I thought you might find interesting. When this case shipped to us, the bottom fan bracket was reversed, so it automatically made me think that there was only one way to do the bottom fans, and that was on that angle, and I think I might have cut that out of the video already, but you can have the bottom fans either flat or on an angle depending on your preference. The fact that it's angular at the bottom is cool too, because what it does is it gives the case the same footprint, but it improves the airflow from underneath the case because it changes the height of the surface that you have your PC on. More height means more air means better thermals means better performance means smiley face. The last time we did a build like this in a case like this with this GPU in a vertical mount, people were like, oh, so much GPU sag. Yeah, but I'm happy to report that the vertical GPU bracket that comes with the NV7 works for vertically mounted GPUs as well. Nice surprise. Good work, Phanteks. Thanks for that little bit of attention to detail. 9 out of 9. People always say 10 out of 10. Why does 10 need to be the benchmark for the number? Why not 9 out of 9 or 8 out of 8 or 69 out of 69? 420 out of 420? The fan capacity of this case is just ridiculous as well. When we do the parts of the video before we build, it's hard to gauge at how insane some of these cases can be when you fully load them up with fans. That's ridiculous. That is a lot of fans. While we're talking about fans, we will probably get comments saying, hey, your fans are backwards. They're blowing air out of the case. It's negative pressure and all this other stuff that people will just bang on about thinking they're right about stuff in the comments. Yeah, I'm being a bit of a dick right now, but these fans have reverse pitch fan blades. So the backside is intake and the bottom is intake as well. And the rest is exhaust. So there's your answer to that. Now that all the elephants in the room have been addressed, The last thing is the price. The Phanteks NV7 is going for around $219.99 US dollars, or 220 US dollars. What that equates to in Australian dollars is hard to say. I'm going to say around 300 Aussie dollars. Build quality, the execution is excellent. You're getting an included RGB controller and RGB. That stuff does cost extra money in almost all cases. You're also getting versatility. It's a big case. You can fit a lot of water cooling gear in here if that's something that you wanted to do. And overall, I think the NV7, and it pains me to say this because, oh, I'm so like, big cases are just not my thing, but this thing is excellent. So good work, Phanteks. You absolutely nailed this case. And I think you guys are gonna like it too. Guys, if you like the music, I make all the music. It's available by clicking that join button right down there. It's down there, down below, next to the subscribe button. And while you're down there, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button, do all those things to tell the algorithm that, hey, maybe Gear Seekers does make good content. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers, and this is the Phanteks NV7. You peek, we seek, and we'll catch you next time. I really, really like this case, and I think you guys are gonna like it too. Thanks for watching.